Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Okay, if you look into YouTube, you'll see that I put up there the class in the Chumash from last year, learning now Chayei Sorah. Today is the class on Sunday. There's the Torah reading is divided up into seven portions that correspond to the seven people that we call up to the Torah reading on Shabbat. So every day there's another Torah portion. Last year, I already did it with some of the explanations, some of the commentaries. So this year, to make it a little easier on myself, is I uploaded last year's class. So you look on the YouTube and you'll see it. But not 100% easier on myself. I want to fill this time with also, like I did last week, with a speech of the Rebbe, speech of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Seeing as these are the words of the Moshiach, and the whole job of the Moshiach is going to be to educate everyone, in addition to doing other things. But that's the main thing of the Moshiach. That's why it says that the Moshiach is going to be a person like Moses. And he's going to do what Moses did, take the Jews out of Egypt and educate them, give them the Torah. So that's what the Moshiach is going to do. So here we got it. Here it is. So let's learn a little bit of what the Moshiach has to say about this week's Torah portion. Okay, in the Haintaka Sedra, in this week's Torah portion, called Chayei Sorah, in the life of Sorah, which is a bit interesting also because it doesn't really talk anything about the life of Sorah. The whole Torah portion starts off after Sorah dies, and Abraham has to go look for a burial place where to bury her. In any case, we'll deal with that question a little bit later. But let's deal with this first. So it says, Vatamat Sorah B'Kiryat Arba. Let's say Ashkenazic pronunciation. Vatamat Sorah, the Sorah died B'Kiryat Arba, in a place called Arba, Kiryat Arba. Another name for it now is Hebron. No, it's also the same thing. Kiryat Arba is like a part of Hebron. The Eretz Canaan, in the land of Canaan. That was before it was called Eretz Yisrael. It was only called Eretz Yisrael after the Jews, God went there from Egypt. So it says that Sarah died in this place called Kiryat Arba. He Hebron, in the land of Canaan. Kiryat Arba. Kiryat Arba is like the city of four. And they explain why, several reasons, but one of the reasons is that there's four couples that are buried there, that are going to be buried there. I mean, Sarah and his wife were the second couple. The first couple was Adam and his wife, Chava. Adam and Eve are buried there. And now Abraham is going to bury Sarah there. And when Abraham dies, he's going to be buried there. And also his son and his son's wife, Yitzchak and Rivka. And finally, his grandson, Yaakov, and one of his wives, Leah, his other wife, Rachel, is buried in Beit Lechem. Okay. So it says that Sarah died in this place called Kiryat Arba, the city of four. That's the name of it. He Hebron. And it's another name for it is Hebron, in the land of Canaan, which became the land of Israel. Touch the Zohar. The Zohar. The Zohar, of course, is a Kabbalistic book. And the Zohar says that Sorah, everything that it says in the Torah is to be taken simply. It actually did happen. There was a person called Sorah and Abraham in the land of Canaan and Kiryat Arba. They're really cities, yes. But that's just the outside. The inside, the soul of the whole thing, we don't see. And the Zohar deals with that. The Zohar says that Sorah is a hint. It's a, how do you say, you want to call it a metaphor? Okay, a metaphor. It's a sign. Andait. It's an indication. Oif dem guf, on the body. Sorah represents the human body, Jewish body. And Avram, oif dem neshama, is as a indication of the soul. Sorah, she represents the physical part of Judaism, and Abraham is the spiritual part. Und das is Zok the Zohar. That's what it says. Vatamat Sorah. says that Sora died. What's Sora? That's the body. The body dies. As then their goof, when the body Shtorb dies, is Bekiryat Arba. It's in a place which is called the city of four. What's the four? The body, the human body, is made up of four elements. What's the four elements? Fire, water, earth, air. He Hebron. And the word for Hebron means to be joined. Called them on all the time a person is alive. Zain the fear Yesodas, these four elements are mechubar. They are joined. Is when or start when a person dies, demol then is Yavo Abraham, then comes Abraham. What's Abraham? What did we say before? Abraham, that is a metaphor of the soul. The soul, and it comes lispod, the Sarah, lifkota, to weep for sorrow, which we said is the body. So the soul weeps for the body. The neshama veint, the soul cries, val oich, because also nochem toit, even after a person is dead, un la'achris talkus, and after the soul leaves the body, is the neshama verbunden mit guf, because even after a person dies, so his soul is still connection, has some sort of a connection with the body. In other words, a person knows that's me they're burying over there. That's me, because the soul never dies. Soul doesn't die. Soul is always there, but the soul feels that is my body. My body. The soul still has a connection with the body. It's not that just that the body just sort of rots away and the soul goes up and flits around in the what is it, the amorphous land or something. No, the soul has an identity and it recognizes the body. Loitem, according to this, Asura is the remez, the Sora. This is a hint for the body, and Abraham is the sort, is a hint, a Kabbalistic hint for the soul. Is implignit for standing, it's not understood. Vashted, what it says, last week's Torah portion. Kol asher tomar elecha Sora, anything that Sora says, Shema b'kola, you have to listen to her voice. Right? Sora wanted to evict Yishmael from the house, and Abraham didn't want to. But he said, anything God said to Abraham, anything that Sora says, you have to listen to her. She has a higher level of prophecy than you do. Hey, that's nice, but it doesn't seem to work out over here according to the Zohar. Sora is the body. Abraham is the soul. How could it possibly be that the body has a higher level of prophecy than the soul? What does that mean? Well, how could the body be higher than the soul? The body is just like this old, a sack of potatoes or something, or an old car that doesn't have any gasoline or fire. What is it? Spark plugs in it. The whole thing is just an old wreck. The body. What's the body? You leave the body alone, and it starts rotting away. How can it be that the body is represented by Sora is higher than the soul? That God tells Abraham, whatever Sora says, you have to listen. What are we supposed to do? Whatever urges, God forbid, any urges that our body shoots up, right? We have to do, and whatever. The world would be total bedlam, which is, would be what is it called? San Francisco or something. Everybody just does what they want to, and everybody's miserable. Is that what God is saying? You should listen to what your body says, but that's what it says. Abraham is the soul, Sora is the body, and God said, whatever Sora says, listen to what she says. What's going on here? Es ist bewusst, it's known, der Wort, the saying, from the Baal Shem Tov. A little bigger, why not? It is known the saying of the Baal Shem Tov, or if they put it on the sentence, Rovetz tachas masa'o azov tazov imo. That's the sentence. It says, when you see the donkey of your enemy suffering under its burden, but you see it, your next door neighbor, you hate him, you can't stand him, he drives over your lawn all the time, he makes these wild parties, keeps you up at night, won't let you go to sleep. So he One day you see him walking on the road, you're on the road, and he's got connection with the police, so you can't call the police. So you see him on the road, and he's got a donkey, and his donkey is all laden down with goods. Where are you going? I'm going to the marketplace. So why don't you move a little? He said, I can't. My donkey is something happened to it, and he can't carry it. It's all falling off. So it says there's a commandment, you have to help him. In fact, if it's somebody who you like, right next to this fellow who you don't like, and they have the same problem, you have to help the one you don't like first. Why? Because why is it you don't like people? You don't like him. Go and talk to him. He doesn't listen to you, so it's his problem. What can you do? There's no reason not to like him. He's got a problem with his personality, but that doesn't mean giving you excuse to hate him just for no reason. So it says, therefore, you have to, if you see, that's the sentence in the Torah, if you see the donkey of your enemy suffering under his burden, then you should help him. It says, azov tazov, in this case, the word azov means to help. Says the Baal Shem Tov, it's pretty straightforward. What you should do, you see a donkey. Says the Baal Shem Tov, first of all, this is not really relevant now, huh? Because who has donkeys nowadays? Who's got donkeys? The Jewish people don't. Maybe there's some Arabs or something that don't, but Jews generally don't have donkeys. So this is not relevant, right? Wrong. The Torah is always relevant. What is it? How is this relevant? The Baal Shem Tov explains. When you see chamor means a donkey, but chamor also means your physicality, your materialistic feelings. As du vest sich eingucken. If you see in dein chomer, when you see your own donkey, in other words, your own materialistic crassness, your physicality, as vest du zen as sonecha, then all of a sudden you realize that your body can be your enemy. It is dein son, it hates you. Well, in Anev, in the beginning of the service of God, and by Anev from Lebanon, by the beginning of your life, seine Guf and the Shama, Sonim, they hate one another. Rovitz tachas maso. The soul wants spiritual things, ideal to be honest, to be happy, to be productive, to be positive. That's what the soul wants. Soul wants these general principles, but the body says, hey, you got to be realistic. You can't. How do you say honesty is the best policy? Sometimes you got to cheat a little bit. Sometimes if you don't get what you want, so you get miserable. And not only that, if somebody says something against you, you got to say something bad about the other guy. Huh? Get him before he gets you. That's what the body says. It says if you see your body suffering as under its burden, what's the burden? The oil from Torah. You find it's very difficult. You see yourself, that your body, that's your chamor, your physicality, and also the same word for a donkey, is preventing you, making it difficult for you to carry your burden, namely to do what God wants, Torah, the commandments. Nit kukendik as das is masao. Forget about the fact that it's your burden. Your burden, that's what God told you have to do. Was therefore, had man given mitzvahs to neshamos in gufim. Therefore, God gave the commandments are given to souls in bodies specifically. While because the kavana, the intention is to leave ois laterin them guf in order to refine the body. From deswegen, nevertheless, is thus far in a masa. Nevertheless, sometimes it becomes a big burden. Was veil does. He doesn't want to put on tefillah and keep Shabbos. It's hard for him to learn Torah. He wants to do whatever he wants. Therefore, it becomes a big burden, right? It's very difficult on his chamor, on his donkey, on his physicality. His rofis does machalo. Therefore, he's stumbling. Therefore, it says you have to help him. So, what do we see over here? That the physicality of a person, if it opposes him and it makes things difficult, so what's he supposed to do? Don't leave it. Don't go and become a hermit, right? What do I need to get married? What do I have to have a wife for? That is going to interfere with my Torah. That's going to be like a donkey suffering under his burden. I'll take it easy. He says, no, that's your burden. You have to work with it. Oyster them in effect, which the commandments, Zayin Given, were given specifically to souls in bodies. Zayin, the mitzvahs themselves, they themselves are physical things. Not only the positive commandments, but also the commandments which are commandments of the heart. For instance, loving God, fearing God. What type of physical thing is that? Was a chovas moach, things to understand God, to try to das elokei avicha, to understand. Azoivi, the mitzvah is just like the mitzvah, like believing in God, unifying God, gloiben in the Eibishter, and einzigen from the Rashafar, and unifying God wherever you are, to say what God wants, think what God wants. That's called unifying God. Okay, but all these things you might think they're spiritual, but they're not. Oich the mitzvahs in Zayin Inyan. The mitzvahs is Zayin Inyan. Also, these commandments, which loving God. What do you do with love? What do you do with your hands, your feet, in order to love God? No, it says, but your heart has to feel as a zolan dar feeling in davke in their kerpelige flesh, when hearts and moach. These commandments have to be felt. Loving God means that you have to not just think about it, you have to feel it. You have to feel in your heart. Lamasha, for instance, the commandment from loving God, Azoi is Gangash, just like in the physical world, says Shemua Tova Tachenet de Etzem. There's a saying that says that a good news makes a person fat. A gutta basura, good news, macht fat from the brain. It makes the bones fat. Be the Gemara, like a story in the Gemara, as from the Gutta Basura, that when somebody got a good news, it says that the general of the Roman army, that he was laying siege to Jerusalem to destroy the Second Temple. So one of the Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai got snuck. They snuck him out, and he went to this general and he said, "Your Majesty." Your Baron said, "What are you calling Your Majesty? If the king finds out about this, you're going to get, he'll chop off your head. I'm just a general, I'm not the Majesty." All of a sudden came a messenger, huffing and puffing from Rome, and said, "General," it says, "Yes, you just been, the king died, you've just been chosen to be the new king. You've just been chosen to be the king." So he said, "Wow, good news, that's pretty good news." So he was putting on a shoe. He couldn't get it on. Couldn't get a shoe on because the good news made us fat. And then, so he figured, okay, I'll get a bigger pair of shoes. He couldn't take the other one off because his foot had swelled up. What did it swell up from? From the good news. The good news made him fat. Was man had angezok. As soon as he gave good news, as we see that there was a physical change. So also the same thing with loving God. What that Kirvas Elokim Litov, feeling the closeness of God makes it good for a person. Was their mensch, their person feels when he feels is there the kentik, it should be also noticeable in his physical body. Also the same thing, fear. Not nor was darf sein a kivutz a moach, not just that a person should be intellectual, his imagination should get, like you're watching whatever it is you're reading, some scary book or something like that. It says no, I feel it in hearts, but your heart should also feel it, right? You read a scary book, your heart isn't so affected. If you see it in the physical world, then your heart gets affected. That's the commandment of fearing God and loving God. It has to be felt in your physical heart. That's the thing of Sora. The physical body is higher than the soul, physical body. Nor as Darv Zayin Kentik, it has to be noticeable also in his physical body. From the brain and from the heart, that he's afraid. All Abanans gewesen, then the everything. The leaders of Chabad have taught us all this. Un oich in dem zach is Faran a Beispiel. There's also an example. What's the example? Yeah. As is Babus that's known, the mice of the story that the Alter Rebbe, one time he was praying. It was on Rosh Hashanah, or it was Yom Kippur, as Kumandik to the Veret, as soon as he came to, therefore, put your fear as part of the prayers of Rosh Hashanah. He's saying, God, put your fear on the whole world, that everybody should fear you, that they shouldn't do bad things. As soon as he came to the word pachtacha, means your fear, as he himself became so afraid, he couldn't finish the word. He could only say pach, pach. Mit the pachad, he had such a great fear that he couldn't finish the word. But all he could say is pach, pach, pach. So we see that his fear had an effect on his physical body. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Nocham, there's also another story about the third Rebbe of Chabad, as in the first years, as he sat and he was speaking to the Hasidim, as men had gebracht kavit, some sort of a very highly alcoholic beverage. Das was highest 90% alcohol. Very powerful alcohol drinks. Now they have 96%. As hotter genumen ein glass. He took one full glass, and then after that he took another glass, and then he took a third glass. Nachdem hat vier getan mit der Hand, and afterwards, when he had finished speaking to everybody for bringing, they were all singing, they were all happy. He took 3 big glasses of this 90% alcohol, which is definitely enough to make a person, seriously inebriated. And afterwards, when he was finished, he rubbed his hand over his forehead, und sie is auf him gar nicht nicker gewesen. Suddenly, all of his drunkenness went away. They asked him how he did it, and he said, "What happened?" He said, "1 minute." What did the Tzemach said afterwards? He said that as soon as he rubbed his hand over his head, that he thought about God, and that gave him the closeness and greatness of God, and that gave him a fear. And it's a saying that liquor is very strong, but fear gets rid of the liquor. And the fear took away his liquor. So what do we see? That it was noticeable in the fear that he had a physical effect on his body. So also with love. It's known the story of Nahum of Chernobyl. It said that he became fat from saying Amen Yehei Shmei Rabbah. He would say, right, Amen Yehei Shmei Rabbah. He would think about the greatness of God and how good God is, and that would make him so happy that he would become fat from that. He actually became fat. He was a very heavy person, and he almost didn't need anything because of the love and the pleasure that he had from God. So it says, therefore, if your donkey is suffering, your physicality is suffering, and it makes it hard for you to do Torah mitzvahs, so then it says, don't refrain from helping. As the Baal Shem Tov explained further that and the previous sentence it says, you might think, as vibalt is the group, because the body is rovetz masa'o, the body is making you all sorts of troubles and making it hard for you to do Torah and commandments, as weißt du sich vernehmen mit azoi avoda was gehört to them neshama. So therefore, forget about all this physical stuff and just sit and learn and pray, and that's all. Deal only with your soul. Let the body alone. When they're guv in the body, vested tzabrach, and therefore you should break the body. Don't give it to eat, don't sleep, etc. Azov tazov yimo. Well, there, darf mevorer zayin tamkov. Yeah, that's how you refine. No. I'm sorry. Leave the body alone. It's not your problem. That's what you might think, says the Baal Shem Tov. No, that's what the sentence says. Azov tazov yimo. You have to help the body. How do you help it? What does it mean? Afilu ven zol mekaven zayin ala kavanas. Even if you have all the right intentions on the commandments, but you don't actually do physically the commandments. Ervet mekaven zayin the kavanas. You have all of the deep Kabbalistic, unifications that you make in your mind with when you put on tefillin, but in fact you don't put them on. So it says, is nitnor, not only that are you lacking the commandment, but also you did a sin. Why? Because you purposely refrained from putting on tefillin. In other words, what's the Rebbe trying to stress over here? The body, in many ways, is more important than the soul. If a person has all the right intentions, all the right ideas, he has the biggest Kabbalistic library in his head, all encyclopedia, he knows everything, but he doesn't do the commandments. So not only has he not done something good, but he did something bad. He neglected purposely one of the commandments. In other words, the main thing is the body. The main thing, that's why God told Abraham to listen to Sarah, his wife. His Sarah represents the body. But let's take the other way around. What if a person just puts on tefillin and he doesn't have any intention? All he knows is that God wants, right? The rabbi says that God wants me to put on tefillin, so I'll put on tefillin. What about all the deep ideas of unifying your heart, unifying your mind, the four different compartments, what each one stands for? If a person just cold puts on the tefillin, but he doesn't have any intentions, either because he doesn't know what they are, or he does know, but he just doesn't, at that time, he doesn't use all these intentions and things like that. He doesn't, is Shmeisen Men Im says the person should get punished because he should have used his mind. If he knew what the intentions are, putting on tefillin, he should have done it. Good. So let's say he gets punished, but the fact of the matter is, he did the commandment. He did the commandment. That's a lot better than it's like we said before. What's better, a soul without a body or a body without a soul? It says if you have a soul without a body, you haven't got anything. What do you got? You got nothing, right? Congratulations, you gave birth to a soul. What do you mean? What is this? Oh, can I see him? What are you nuts? You can't see a soul, but it's my baby. I want to see my baby. You can't see a baby. It's just a soul. Well, that's terrible. If you say you gave birth to a child, stillborn, he hasn't got, that's terrible, that's awful. But maybe you can give him an electric shock, maybe you can give him an injection. There's something to work with at least, right? Oh, came back to life, right? He came back to life. But if there's just a soul, where are you going to get a body from? If there's a body, you can maybe connect this body to the soul. The main thing is a soul, right? Even though it has a little, the main thing, is the body. Even the body has a little bit of soul, a potential of a soul. The body at least is better than the same thing. Doing a commandment without any intentions is not a good thing, but it's a lot better than having all the intentions and not doing any commandments. From them Tzemach Tzedek's, that's by the way, the big fault with, the Reform, conservative, Christianity, all these things that say you don't have to do the commandments. The commandments, take it or leave it there. It's not so necessary. Here the Rebbe is saying, no, the actual physical deed is the most important thing in Judaism. That's not to minimize the importance of spiritual intentions and having your heart involved. That's for sure not. But nevertheless, if you have a choice of either one or the other, it's better to have deed without intention than intention without deed. Und seinen dort gewinnt zwei Moalim. There was a story that once there were two experts circumcised. In the days of the Tzemach Tzedek, that was the third Rebbe of Chabad, like about 150 years ago, something like that. So there were two mohalim. A mohel is the one that does the circumcision right on the baby. Ein is given an elder. One of them was older, and he knew all of the writings of the Arizal, all the secrets of the Kabbalah and everything, a holy person. See, Allah, he doesn't know if he knew all of them or he knew all of it. He knew enough that it was very, very impressive. Aber die Inyanim, was haben zu Sheikhos zu Mila, hat gewusst. He knew all the secrets of circumcision, he certainly knew. Und einer is given, but the other mohel, the other one is an Inger. He was younger, he was an expert, but he was much more simple in knowledge. He knew the laws, he knew one or two things, secrets of whatever it is, but not any more than that. The Tzemach Tzedek said, as man the Neman, we should take the younger one. Why? Because the reason is because the main thing is there has to be someone who knows how to cut the foreskin actually, and there's no danger, right? That's what we want. The wonderful intentions, that's great. That's wonderful. Write books about it, but don't actually do it. I don't want it. Undas is there pashat. This is what it means. Everything that Sora said, listen to her voice, because Sora refers, according to the Zohar, means the body. And the main thing in Judaism is the body. Doing, action. It says that Behelim, now we don't see the highness of the body. We see if anything is high, spiritual, close to God, it's the soul. Body is bad. Says the fact of the matter is that if you get your body to do the commandments, that holiness in the body, which is higher than the soul, which now is concealed, the atid lavo in the future, the idea of Moshiach is vetmen, it'll be revealed. Bizvan until as the neshama, until the soul. The soul, Vednemen Chayos from the goof. It says that in the future there'll be the raising of the dead, and the souls will come into the body to receive life force from the body. By the avos is Yadu, it's known Heitimo Akodesh Baruch Hu Ba'olam Hazeh Me'en Olam Haba, that God gave them a taste in this world, something like the world to come, the raising of the dead. We're talking about. Der Eibishter hat gegeben Versucht, and he gave them like a taste of something like the world to come, like the raising of the dead in this physical world. Therefore, Hatman Avram, therefore God said to Abraham, everything that Torah says, right, in the future, in the raising of the dead, we'll see that the body is higher than the soul. But Abraham got a taste of that even now. Therefore, God said to Abraham, everything that Torah says, that Torah is the body, you should listen to what she says, because the body in the end is the true goal of Judaism. And in the body is the highest revelation of godliness, potentially, if you do what the Torah and the commandments say. Have a good day with Moshiach now. And as I said, look up in YouTube and you'll see today's Torah portion with commentary. Shalom uvracha. Have a good day.